live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Thanks for joining us on 2 News Live. I'm Brian Schnee. It is Tuesday, August 29th. We're going in depth tonight on fire and flood. Utah really not seeing either of them right now, but the latest on Department of Emergency Management working with FEMA as it pertains to flood assessments from a few months ago, and also our mild fire season we're having. But before we get there, let's take a look at the headlines that you can find on our website right now, KUTV.com. The Utah County Sheriff's Office says it's investigating an apparent case of road rage once again in Eagle Mountain. The Sheriff's Office says this is happening obviously across the country and across the state even. More on that on our website, KUTV.com. University of Utah now confirming that gymnastics head coach Tom Farden is not on leave as an investigation continues. Athletes, parents, and staff claim Farden was emotionally abusive and physically intimidating. Some new numbers are in showing the voter turnout so far in the race to replace Congressman Chris Stewart. The Utah Elections Office says nearly 18% of Republican voters in the 2nd District have cast their ballots. There is 1 week left to do so. Finally, in our headlines, a new home for the Hoberman Arch. You may remember it, part of the Metals Plaza during the '02 Olympic Games here in Salt Lake City. Now crews are installing the arch near the Salt Lake City International Airport, and what a sight to see. As we go in depth tonight, you can always get in touch with us throughout the show using the hashtag 2NewsLive. You can join our conversation in any of those places, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send us a direct message there to weigh in. An update to an in-depth conversation we've had before here on 2 News Live. We've told you about FEMA conducting preliminary damage assessments as it pertains to flooding damages in counties all across Utah. We now know that 11 counties met their own thresholds for qualifying damages. Right now, verified damages relating to flooding are estimated at more than $23 million. This will likely increase, according to the Utah Division of Emergency Management. Here's where we are in the process.
This was what we mainly refer to as an infrastructure disaster. There wasn't a large amount of homes that suffered damages. This was mostly bridges, roads, water control facilities, that sort of thing. And then, of course, debris and emergency protective measures. So it was mainly an infrastructure, a PA infrastructure disaster. Whenever there's a disaster, in order to qualify for public assistance, you need to meet state thresholds have to be met. The state threshold this year is 5.7, almost $5.8 million. So that threshold of damages needs to be met, as well as any county that's affected needs to meet their county threshold in order to qualify for assistance as well.
So what did we find with this one?
So we had 16, there may be 17 now, 16 counties that applied for that submitted preliminary damage assessments, and 11 of those were found to be verified damages from a FEMA joint field study that we collaborated with FEMA on towards the end of July. And they went out and verified some of the larger damages to make sure we were over our threshold. We exceeded our threshold over 4 times. So we definitely have met that requirement. And so that's where we're at there. We have our 3 largest counties damages for the 3 largest counties were Salt Lake County, Wasatch County, and Utah County. And so all 3 of those were the communities that were visited with this joint visit with FEMA. Right now, we are in a holding pattern as far as, from a technical standpoint, because we have to wait to see if we have the disaster, if it's declared. And then if it's declared, then FEMA will bring a team out here for a few weeks to help us get started with what we call a process for people to apply for public assistance, RPAs. And once that process takes off, then we go through that process. FEMA collaborates and coordinates and verifies the damages at a more specific granular level. What we did to get the initial PDAs was we just took what we had available at the time. But when you get down to the micro level, that takes more time. And then that process starts, and the folks that have met that criteria are awarded a public assistance grant, and then we start that process.
Well, we had a live look from Florida's Gulf Coast. You probably heard me say, dang. Well, we had a beautiful live look, and then the camera froze. So that was the reason why I said dang. This is Category 2 Hurricane Idalia, just hours away from making landfall as a major storm. The governor there declaring a state of emergency for several counties in the Big Bend region. So let's take a look at some of the other video. Meanwhile, FEMA is preparing for Hurricane Idalia, staging people, equipment, and resources in Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. The administrator, Deanne Criswell, says teams are ready to pivot to the most impacted areas immediately after the storm passes. Warehouses filled with food, blankets, and medical supplies are also at the ready. Officials have warned there could be storm surges of up to 12 feet along parts of Florida's Gulf Coast. FEMA currently has $3.4 billion in its disaster relief fund. Chase Thomason here. Chase, you've been talking about this hurricane on 2 News at 4 o'clock. Also, Sterling talking about at 5 o'clock. This is another live look. You can see, obviously, some of the waves. I wouldn't want to be in the water right now with the rip currents, but people are out there just watching. It is what people do.
And remind me, where is this?
I thought this was in the St. Petersburg area, but I may be wrong.
Yeah.
I know others back there behind the scenes right now have eyes on this location. So if I hear something, I will let you know. But this is in a different spot than that other camera that we were showing that was bringing really a good punch to that storm surge.
And you know, we're still several hours away from this hurricane making landfall up towards the northern portion of the state. This is going to be a little bit more towards the southern portion. But still, storm surge will be coming onshore, even in this area, as the eye passes well to the west. So we have a lot to go over, including the very latest information. You'll see where the eye has already started to develop, Brian, on satellite and radar, which is indicating a pretty potent storm. It is intensifying. You mentioned a Category 2. It will likely become a Category 3 within maybe the next 6 hours or so. But the bands of rain already pushing through the state of Florida. We've had some tornado warnings already. So the latest wind speeds at 100 miles an hour. It is moving quite quickly to the north at about 16 miles per hour. Forecast to become a Cat 3 storm by midnight and then move onshore right here. That's the Big Bend area of Florida. It will weaken, but it's still a Cat 1 hurricane as it enters Georgia, then a tropical storm for portions of South Carolina and North Carolina, bringing in a lot of wind and rain. And again, some areas of western Florida could see their storm surge at 6 to 12 feet above sea level. It's a lot of water. Salt Lake today, how about we tied a record high at 99 degrees. That is more than 10 degrees above normal. Not quite hitting 100, but definitely close. We will be cooling things off for tonight with these clear skies. 60s along the Wasatch Front. How about some 50s in Logan and Park City? Central Utah near 60 degrees. St. George, not a lot of relief as we dip only into low 70s. Tomorrow, it stays very sunny out there. Still a little breezy in southern and eastern Utah, but take a look. Temperatures bit cooler, more comfortable in the 80s for the Wasatch Front, low 80s in Logan and in Park City. However, northern Utah is going to be smoky tomorrow. That's because our winds are changing direction. We have a cold front that will be sliding in. Its dry cold front over the next 12 to 24 hours. Winds are out of the northwest, and there's several fires burning in the Pacific Northwest. So there you go, the smoke moving in. Mainly for northern Utah, but maybe some light smoke for central Utah. Southern Utah, no smoke for you, and no rain pushing into the state until Thursday. We start to see some isolated showers and thunderstorms. But take a look, a developing storm system drops into California by Friday and Saturday. And that's going to really help pump up lots of moisture into Utah. And look at all this rain Friday afternoon, especially in central and southwestern Utah. We could have heavy rainfall and maybe some scattered thunderstorms in northern Utah as well. Wouldn't be surprised. Looks like the ingredients might be right for maybe some strong to severe thunderstorms on Friday. And our rain chances, they might continue to go up in northern Utah all the way through the holiday weekend. So if you're at some of those national parks, flash flooding is not expected tomorrow, but it is a possibility at Bryce, Capitol Reef, Grand Staircase, and Zion National Park by Thursday. It's going to be a lot higher, I think, by Friday. Swiss days also this weekend. in the Heber Valley, and it looks like it will be wet. So grab your umbrella, and a bit cooler as those temperatures in Midway drop into the upper 70s for highs. St. George, we're going to be hot for the next couple days, a little breezy. Might see a stray thunderstorm on Thursday, but a good chance for rain on Friday. Scattered storms over the weekend, mid 80s, so a bit of a cool pattern shaping up for southern Utah and northern Utah. Take a look. Now tomorrow it's 87, smoky skies. We're in the 90s though on Thursday. Of course, we have the Utah football game, and it will be hot for tailgaters, but during the game it should be very nice. Mid 80s Friday, Saturday, 70s Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Labor Day, 74 degrees. I posted this on my Facebook page, Brian. We talked about maybe with that cooler air on Labor Day, snow levels coming down to 10,000 feet. I mean, that's pretty high up there, but there might be a light dusting. So if you're camping in the high Uintas, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple of snowflakes. Don't expect a whole lot. Yeah, this is very common for September, but we're starting to see some cooler weather.
Snowbird Summit. I mean, that's way up there, really, at the hidden
area.
But
it's exciting.
It is very exciting. I mean, the first snow is always great, right?
Right.
I did get some clarifying details. I did check this out. Naples.
Naples.
My apologies, Floridians out there. St. Pete, Naples, same coast. I don't feel that bad. However,
pretty south.
Even more south than St. Pete. So really mild here. Another good camera we've been seeing, the one that was frozen, was from Key West. That one had actually some decent storm surge. So obviously we'll be keeping an eye here. It's easier said than done to get some of the imagery, because when you start working on these live cameras, a hurricane knocks them out.
Yes. Wind, rain, lightning, all the things.
All right, we'll know to keep things locked here with you over the course of the next day or two when it comes to tracking the hurricanes. There's multiple out there right now. Right. So remember to download our 2 News Weather app to know about those changes in your neighborhood. You can get updated forecasts, some live radar right at the palm of your hand. The app is free to download. Let's talk about another weather-related issue, right? Here in the United States, Utah is one of the states that is experiencing wildfires year in and year out. Right now, safe to say this is one of the more mild fire seasons, really, when you look at this map in recent history. This is a very dramatic look at just how scarce things are in Utah. If we can zoom out here, this is an impressive map. Look at the Pacific Northwest. Look at this corner of Montana. Look at Washington, and look at my old stomping grounds in Oregon. You want to talk about bad air quality? Try being in one of these spots right now. Utah here, mild. Let's take a look at some of the numbers here with the folks at the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands.
How would you categorize this fire season compared to years past?
Yeah, this year has been very slow for Utah. Not so much for the rest of the western states. Our surrounding neighbors definitely are seeing the impact to wildfire. We have been lucky. I feel that there's, as far as the public goes, we are being safer. We're being more responsible when it comes to fires. When it's drying, warmer, hotter conditions, red flag warnings, that sort of thing. We've definitely been more proactive and doing our part to be smart when it comes to fire.
Looking at where we are this year compared to years past, how do the numbers stack up to where 2023 has been to previous years?
Yeah, so right now we're sitting at 651 wildfires for the year. 250 are human cause. Compared to last year, we were sitting at 795 total wildfires. 385 of those were human cause. And then compared to 2021, we were over 1,000 wildfires. 493 of those were human cause. So we are seeing a continued downward trend as far as human cause fires go.
When you look at those fuels, is there still the potential for something to take off if sparks are emitted?
Yeah, I would say definitely, especially in the lower elevations. In our higher timber areas, I don't know that I think our fuels, our ERCs are showing that it's really pretty wet still. October, though, however, looks like it could be a lot drier. And there's that potential where if we get that drying trend, it definitely we could get some light starts here and there on the forests. But again, I think the lower elevations, you're thinking, desert, St. George, West Desert District, BLM, that sort of thing. I think we could definitely see some potential.
How are you processing this fire season as somebody who's lived through some bigger fire years, and this has been relatively mild?
Honestly, I feel like we have dodged a bullet in sorts because again, our western states, our neighbors, they are seeing the fire. It's still that ongoing trend. Again, you've mentioned the drought. We have had the weather that's helped us immensely. However, central Utah doesn't always necessarily get the monsoons. We get maybe a tail end of it here and there. But again, we've been lucky. We've seen, just these mild starts here and there. Thompson Ridge is an exception, right? We know that. But compared to the other years, like I remember starting in fire was like back in the early 2008-7 timeline, and we were still getting these milder years. We weren't seeing as much. We were like in the 700-800 totals for the year. We're on track to see that trend this year. We've had such a crazy last 15 years have been just insane. Thousands of fires a year. 2020 was insane. It was the highest numbers that we've seen ever, just because you see the wet and the moisture that's moved into the area. There's still a potential to have the drying trends move through, and there's always that potential to start a wildfire. So again, it's super important. Just because we're sitting on a different line than we've previously been, still let's do our part and be smart when it comes to fire.
Well, let's continue to go in depth on this tonight. There are a few fires burning here in Utah right now. This is the Moore Fire in Juab County. It's burning in the western portion of the Manti La Salle National Forest. It sparked nearly 2 weeks ago. It's only burned about 5 acres, was lightning caused. I can tell you right now that has changed. They conducted some burnout operations. I posted a really cool video on my Twitter page right now of a time lapse of how that looked today from the same vantage point. The reason why they did what they did with this fire, it's burning in some really dangerous beetle kill that's extremely dangerous for firefighters on the ground. That could mean snags, falling trees, really sending our guys and gals out there wearing uniform into a death trap. So they're trying to be very strategic about a fire in a situation like this. If you see smoke from this, it'll be east of Levan. You probably can get a vantage point from I-15 if you're driving through parts of Juab County. Another wildfire in some really remote terrain, this one burning in Emery County, has also been burning for nearly 2 weeks. There's a good chance this is the first time you're hearing about it. It's the Lighthouse Canyon Fire in Emery County. It's burned about 90 acres. Cause not specified, but look at that terrain. You would imagine Mother Nature played a role there. The fire is burning in the Desolation Canyon Wilderness. Sounds pretty out there, right? This is southeast of East Carbon into that remote part of the county. And you can see from these photos, rough and rugged terrain. No crews that we're aware of working this one from the ground, but the Bureau of Land Management trying to use a helicopter to work on this fire. Meanwhile, starting tomorrow, fire restrictions will be lifted at Zion National Park. This change follows some recent rainfall, some improved conditions there for some of the fuels. That's really reduced the fire danger, according to park officials. They say Utahns still need to use the fire sense. This includes making sure fire pits are cold to the touch before leaving and avoiding parking or smoking near dry plants. Use that fire sense. Hey, before we go here, would love to take a live look at this. This is the camera we wanted to show you, Chase. It kind of, needs to refresh every so often. This is Key West. The storm surge, really impressive. It's very hard to see because obviously the camera lens is smudged and hit with rain and all that, but people are out here trying to get a good look. But the storm surge in this area, it's pretty impressive. Been coming over and we've been seeing cars come around here. Look at that.
And that's the southern tip of Florida. And again, it's going to hit the northern end of the state. So that just shows you that's what's coming to portions of the Tampa Bay area. And they're going to see even more storm surge than what Key West is getting at the moment.
And just a reminder, when is expected landfall in that Bend area?
Probably late tomorrow morning. So we'll have updates on 2 News beginning at 4:30 in the morning, walk you through it. So yeah, late tomorrow morning.
All right, thanks for watching 2 News Live tonight. Appreciate you joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow for some more in-depth conversations. And we might have a special 2 News Live up our sleeves here later this week. Outside of the building, we're going to work on the tan lines. Have a great night.